It's your great local station, Avon FM.
Now join us after the break when we'll be speaking to Graeme Campbell from the Artemis Film Group. Well, welcome Graeme to the show tonight. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Myra.
Right, Graeme's actually involved with a film and production company called Artemis Films. Could you tell us a bit about the company itself?
Yes, well, Artemis itself has had quite a kind of long and varied history, but in recent times, in the past 12 months, I've actually set up as a full-time operation with premises in Carluke.
Right. So when did the project first form? I know that it's been quite a long time since it's been ongoing.
Yes, well, way back in the distant 18th century, a long time ago.
Oh, you're not that old, surely, Graeme.
Myself and my brother Richard and some friends at school used to produce a comic called Vulcan. This is in Lanark, which used to sell around the town. And along the way, we met a chap who made lots of horror movies on Super 8. And we were so inspired by this that we decided to basically go out and make our first film, which we did way back in 1982, a science fiction film called The Visitors, and that's how it all kicked off.
Right, that's great. So it's basically yourself and your brother that were the main kind of pushing and idea behind the project? Yeah,
in the early days it was myself and Richard and some friends, a guy from Forthcare, William Kay. We were kind of the major players behind the film group, and during a number of years we just madly went out every weekend and we made science fiction films, horror films, comedies, thrillers. We just became completely absorbed by the whole thing.
So initially everything was done on a voluntary basis?
Very much so. The only cost was really film stock. Everything else was either begged, borrowed or stolen.
So what kind of support did you get, from your local community and other people within the industry itself?
In the early days, no support at all. I mean, it was completely self-contained. If we needed a costume, we just found something in an old shop. If we needed to find out how to set off an explosion, for example, my brother would just get out his chemistry set and we'd discover how to set off explosions and all that kind of stuff.
So you were basically big kids again?
Yes, that's right.
So what does the project aim to be innovative? Does it aim to, come out with, innovative ideas and scripts and push them?
Well, certainly in recent years, I mean, the main aim has been to get funding for film and TV projects. We have a number of projects at the moment which are circulating around the BBC and Channel 4, and we've even shortly got a screenplay going off to Miramax, which is the company that backed Pulp Fiction, and also to a producer in Paris. This is a script called Franks, which is written by a writer called Nancy Muir, who's very, very good, and the screenplay has come in for a lot of praise, including people quite high up in the BBC. So we've got high hopes for this particular production.
Right, the screenwriter that you were talking about there, I mean, do these people approach you with their ideas, or do you, go out there kind of looking for, do you approach them and say, like, we want to make a film, can you come up with any ideas?
It really depends. I mean, often it's people and often because you're perhaps involved in artistic pursuit like film and TV, you tend to meet people of a like mind, and if you have an idea, perhaps somebody tends to go off and run with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you require a crew, for example, you generally know people that are talented and want to do it, and you can usually pull them in. Sometimes you have to go out and get expertise elsewhere, but usually it tends to be people you know or people that know you.
So what do you think a small independent company such as your own has got to offer the industry as a whole? Do you think that small independents like yourself, are important to the industry itself?
I think what we have to offer is an attitude. I mean, we can't walk in with Bruce Willis and some massive kind of Independence Day film with masses of special effects. But I think we have a slight quirkiness because of our background in doing things that are low budget, of doing things that are slightly quirky, that are slightly strange, that are slightly offbeat. I think in that sense we have something to offer. And also because the British film industry has traditionally been based in London in the south, and also the majority of Scottish filmmakers have tended to come from the major urban centres. I think if you come from a slightly more rural background, as I do, you have something slightly different to offer in that department.
Could you give us an example of some of the other productions that you've done in the past?
Well, I think your show only lasts 60 minutes. I think we need about 5 hours for that one. Okay, I'll talk a bit about Ghost Dancer, because Ghost Dancer was Artemis's last drama.
It's probably one of your
film.
most controversial as well, I would
Yes,
imagine.
to be released. Ghost Dancer was a project that was premiered in 1993. It was directed by Richard Campbell, produced by myself, and co-written by a guy called James Christie. And the background to Ghost Dancer was we wanted to explore the themes that were evolving around the closure of the Ravenscraig steel mill in Motherwell, which at that time was a very, very big thing. And we'd been planning and trying to get funding for the project really since the late 80s, but couldn't find any interest from anywhere. And when the closure was announced, we thought to ourselves, look, we've got to get this film out, otherwise it's going to be obsolete. So we basically, with our own money, backed a condensed version of the film, got it shot, got the whole thing wrapped up. When the film was released, we got a lot of media attention from the BBC, local press, national press, and we also had some quite high-profile meetings with people in television, for example. But because of the film's themes, it was, in hindsight, difficult for people in Scotland to screen it, so I didn't get a screening in Scotland. Of all places, the Germans screened it. So that was the kind of. But we learnt a lot from Ghost Dancer. We learnt a lot.
I believe it's a bit of a cult in Holland.
Yes, it's bizarre how these things come back to you. A friend of a friend worked in the Merchant Navy, and a Dutch sailor came on board the ship with a whole stack of videos. It's probably a bit dodgy, somebody coming from Holland. But anyway, amongst all these films, he had a copy of Ghost Dancer. And when I inquired more about that, it transpired that Ghost Dancer is actually a cult movie in the Netherlands.
What are your plans for the future? Is there any other productions in the pipeline?
Well, I think because I've got a very visual imagination, and the people I mix with tend to, have very visual imaginations too. There's a whole host of projects out there. Some have been fully developed to screenplay stage, and others just remain, ideas in the back of cigarette packets. There's a whole host of stuff out there, from science fiction right through to comedy, a whole range of stuff. So I certainly hope these projects will see light of day at some point. I'm sure they will.
I mean, I think that the smaller and the more independent the production is, the more kind of exciting and creative the ideas seem to be. Would you agree with that?
I think so, yes. I mean, it's funny. I mean, we use terms like community or local radio. Here's me going to get serious for a minute, but often these terms are coming from London. Because I mean, if we tune into things like Radio 1 or even Radio 4, very often those programmes are coming from very much a London perspective, and they're talking about people and towns that they know. Yet everything that's happening out with of London is called local. So I mean, where does local start and where does it end?
So it's often another avenue that people can identify with, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
More kind of localised. Right, well, thanks for coming in tonight, Graeme. No, wish you every success, as I'm sure you'll have in the future.
Okay, well, thank you very much.